Hello, I am author Eileen Schnabel, author of the Kept Westgard Time Travel to the American Revolution series, and we only have one question today, a hard question about the Declaration of Independence. So here's the question. It's true, false, so you got a 50-50 shot of getting it. And the question is, the Declaration of Independence states that all Americans have the unalienable right to life, liberty, and justice. True or false? And it's a trick question because if you listened carefully, you might have said true. It's life, liberty, and justice. But if we take our handy dandy Constitution here, you can get these as placemats off Amazon. I don't know where they come from, but I love them. It is actually life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But it made me wonder, how did Thomas Jefferson come up with the idea of the pursuit of happiness? Because it's sort of an odd thing, especially if you think maybe now we're in sort of this day and age, we would think happiness is important, but I don't know that it was ranked all that high back then. So I did a little bit of research, and it turns out the phrase life, liberty, and the right to property was the original wording of a famous philosopher named John Locke. And Thomas Jefferson read a lot of Locke and was obviously well read, but it was property. So even there it becomes a mystery. How do you take life, liberty, and property and become life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? It's quite a lot different. So there are different scholars that have different ideas about this, and there is some evidence that John Locke wrote an earlier essay in 1690 that talks about the idea of the pursuit of happiness as important in creating liberty, because it would create a well-rounded person. And in his verbiage, happiness is sort of more about virtue, it seems, when you look at the essay, than it is so much what we think of sort of fun, go to the beach happiness versus having a deep meaning in your life kind of happiness. So I was also curious if we're the only ones who have this pursuit of happiness in our Constitution, and I found out two others do, although they're modeling them somewhat after the United States. Japan has a pursuit of happiness in its constitution, but that was in 1947 that it created the constitution that has the pursuit of happiness. And South Korea also has that. And then I know that I had read somewhere, and I thought it was kind of fascinating, that Bhutan, this country, instead of doing just gross domestic product, which is something we all look at in the United States when we're looking, especially when we're looking at trade issues, they have something called gross domestic happiness, that they use that as sort of a measure of how successful is the country of Bhutan. So not just, and that kind of gets back to this idea in the um, uh, Declaration of Independence. So is happiness more important than property? Because if in here it would say life, liberty, and property, which in a way in the United States, I would say we clearly measure gross domestic product. We are very keeping tabs on the economics, the average person's economic situation, but I don't think we're even, as far as I know, measuring the average person's happiness like Bhutan does. So that finishes with a question for you, which is, do you think that the pursuit of happiness in the Constitution, actually I have three questions. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I think it's kind of an interesting conversation. A, is that somehow linked to liberty? B, do we actually have that in some measurable way in the United States? Are we pursuing that in a way, they say whatever gets measured gets done, so to speak. And three is, do you think maybe kind of conversely, the idea of an individual pursuit of happiness might be detrimental to society? That instead of sort of thinking about the wellness of the whole society, perhaps individually your happiness might often be at odds with what's good for the society. So those are just thoughts running through my head today. I hope all is going well, and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for listening to all that, and I hope you share your thoughts on that. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.